Genesis chapter 2, beginning in verse 24. Just one verse that we will examine. It says in verse 24, a man shall leave his father and mother, be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. That verse is all about intimacy. Two strangers, two people that have never known each other. At one point, they meet. They, what you call, fall in love. And next, the Bible says that they are to become one flesh. Intimacy. What's your definition? How do you define it? If I was to say to you, husband, write down in a paragraph, maybe even in a sentence, what intimacy / romance means to you, might be different than your wife's definition. But check this out. Intimacy is not necessarily lust or sex or an act or a deed or an event. Listen carefully. Intimacy is the experience of emotional closeness. It occurs when two people are emotionally open with one another. Guys, did you hear that word? Emotionally? They are two people who are emotionally open with one another, and they reveal their true feelings, their thoughts, their fears, their desires. Intimacy includes taking walks. That means together. Taking walks. I told you what when was it? I think my wife is back there. I come home one afternoon, one evening, and I don't know if I remember told you last time or not, but I come home I've been here for a while at the church, and I walk in the house, and she goes, honey, I want to go for a walk. And being the romantic, intimate-minded, sensitive man that I am, I said, go ahead. No intimacy that evening. Intimacy is, listen now, intimacy, taking walks, kissing, flowers, candlelit dinners, cuddling, hugging, saying, I love you, holding hands, writing love letters, making love, and slow dancing. I got this from somewhere, and I don't know the order of it. Maybe you would, I don't know, maybe you would slow dance before making love. I don't know, but all of these ingredients is what makes up intimacy. Now, you might have a different definition, but that's what I want to talk about for we'll be together this evening. The difference of how we can look at this subject, this topic, and make it work together for us. So, Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, I want you to write down 4 ingredients from Genesis 2:24 that I have found that really, really need to be a part of your relationship if there's going to be intimacy. Remember, openness, vulnerability, emotionally relating to one another. That's intimacy. Opening up your heart. If there's going to be that kind of relationship in your marriage, then here's what the 4 ingredients from Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Number 1, there's going to have to be priority. Your marriage is going to have to be first. It cannot be second. Now, this is in keeping with the understanding that Jesus is number 1. Please, I know that. And I hope you know that I know that. So I'm not saying that you put your spouse ahead of God. I'm not saying that. But apart from that, your relationship with your spouse must be number 1. You cannot have intimate connection with your spouse if there's something that you're placing ahead of that person. There cannot be. If you're a business person, then money is your greatest commodity. If you're in business and I can rob you of your money, if I can separate you from your money, your business will fail. Move that idea over to marriage. If I can take time away from your marriage, it'll fail. Time together is the greatest commodity that you have as a couple. If you're not prioritizing your marriage, that means that there is something else that comes first. Again, please, I'm not going to keep repeating it, but you know that Jesus is first. But if you are not protecting your relationship with your spouse, and you're allowing a family member to creep in between, that's dangerous. My wife and I, both of our parents have gone home to be with the Lord. Her mom and dad, my mom and dad. But there was a time, and they both all got saved, but there was a time when placing our parents in their proper place in our marriage was a major struggle for us. Mom wants us to do this. No, my mom wants us to do this. My parents want us to go here. No, my parents want us to go here. And in our early relationship, not only as being married, but as Christians, we allowed that to bring conflict into our marriage. Until I realized, wait, hold on a second. My wife and I and our kids, we are a family. So is there a family member, is there a friend that calls you up and says, hey, can you this or can you that or whatever, and you already have plans with your spouse, and the girlfriends are saying, hey, can you this or can you go here, and you go look at your husband and go, hey, listen, you don't mind, do you? I mean, come on, it's my friends, it's this. Now, I'm talking about on a regular, continued basis, not on an isolated situation. So if I'm going to have intimacy with my spouse, it's going to be because family, friends, work, even church has its place. I'm going to protect my time with my spouse. Because listen, I can be distracted, I can be drawn away from that priority with my spouse, even with good things. Do you know that even it's different now because our kids are grown up and married and have their own kids? But early on, when our kids were at home, I had to be careful that being a pastor at back then, and even now, but back then, in the early days, a fast-growing church, I have to be at the church, I need to do this, and I need to be there, and every now and then my wife said, listen, remember that we got 3 kids at home. Yeah, but see, I'm serving God. I'm busy helping people, and I'm even good things. So if I'm going to have intimacy with my spouse, is your wife a priority? And listen, let's be practical for a second. Me growing up in the construction business, pouring concrete, laying block, running equipment, there was times that there was no work. And then there was times that there was so much work that I couldn't handle it all. And so there was times that my wife and I would plan. We would look at each other and say, listen, for the next month, the next 4 weeks, the next 5 weeks, we're going to have to change our schedule because right now I have all this work that I need to attend to. And the type of work I did, it could be that when I'm done, I'm out of work for a couple of weeks. So I understand that. But we always made it up. At the end of the 5 weeks, at the end of the 6 weeks, we make it up. We're going somewhere. We're going to do something. We're going to make up for that time. Because, Teresa, you are a priority to me. You before the kids, you are a priority to me. I'm not going to go down this path too much, but I will say this. We're facing such a battle these days, such a challenge, such a difficulty, because there is what is called the blended family, that a dad that has children from a previous marriage doesn't get to see those children except on the weekend. And there are times that because I don't want to, that dad, that mom, I don't want to neglect my child that I only see once a week. I sometimes wrongly prioritize my kids over my marriage, and my kids are seeing that I'm prioritizing them over my marriage, and that's a bad example. So again, I don't mean to confuse you anymore, but if you're that parent of a blended family and there's a battle with that, may I suggest that you really seek some help out with that. But I want to leave this thought that if you will prioritize your spouse, which is according to Genesis chapter 2, I really believe, man, that God will make the time for you to be able to have the time for your kids, to have the time for your job, to have the time for your friends, if you will do it His way. Secondly, if I'm going to have intimacy, and we're going to define a little bit more on a practical basis, but if I'm going to have intimacy, from Genesis chapter 2, it can't just be priority. It can't just be that I give you my time, because remember, if I can rob you of time, I've robbed you of your greatest commodity. There has to be passion with the priority. If I'm going to prioritize you, the level of passion, the level of connection, the level of emotion, the level of attention that I pay to you when I am prioritizing you is very, very important. Because if I'm just prioritizing you because it's something I must do, it's something I have to do, it's something that is just right, I have to do this, then am I going to have the right heart? And when I don't have the right heart, you know it, don't you? When your husband, it's like my little boy, when my youngest son that is married and has his own baby now, but when he was little, I was laying on the couch there one afternoon, and he's running by, and probably 8, 10 years old, and I said, Matt, come here. Pops, I'm going outside. I want to play. Just come here for a second. Give me a hug. Pops, I'm going outside. Okay, Matt, come here. Let me hug you. Please, I just want to hug you. Pops, I want to go play outside. I'm busy. I want to go play outside. Matt, come here. I want to hug you. This was his response. Okay, hug me. Come on. Hurry up. No, what? Oh, that's really nice. That's really nice. And so when the wife looks at the husband and says, can we please spend some time together? Okay, come on, sit down. What? What do you want to do? What? What do you want to do? Can we talk? If your wife ever says to you, can we talk? Don't ever say to her, about what? Because she's going to look at you and say, if you have to ask about what, I don't even want to talk to you. Because we've determined that a woman likes to talk, and that's a level of intimacy for her. That's how she expresses intimacy, talking. About what? Do you know that women, it's been determined that, and I have to be careful with this because, do you know that experts have determined that when women talk, a lot of times, and I don't know how to say this without sounding like mean, but it's for no reason. Women like to, and here's the word, women like to share. Just want to share. They get together on the phone and they share. Share what? Nothing. Just share. And so the woman is estimated that she'll speak about 15,000 words a day, somewhere around there. The man is estimated that he'll speak about 9,000 words a day. The problem is that the man will speak his 9,000 words at work. And so when he comes home, she's still got like another 6,000 words to go. And they're not like the cell phone rollover minutes. They don't roll over. They got to speak those. And so when you come home and you've talked your 9,000 words, she sits with you and she looks at you and she holds your hands and says, "Can I just share with you my day?" Okay. And so she starts. "I just want to tell you how good the Lord's been today. I woke up this morning. I sat in my favorite chair. I did my devotions, and this verse that the Lord showed me, you're not going to believe. Let me read this verse that the Lord showed me today." And then when I was done with that verse, I just decided I'm going to go shopping. And I got in the car, and you're not going to believe, I heard this song that I haven't heard in such a long time. And she repeats every word of the song to you, word for word. And so she goes, "I go to the mall, and you're not going to believe, I ran into my friend. I haven't seen my friend in so long. And so I'm at the mall, and you're not going to believe this. Everything was on sale. I saved you so much money today." And you're listening to this, and the only thing you heard was, "I went to the mall." And so what are you thinking, men? Now for her, it's a trail with no end. We're just going for a walk. Now for him, you don't hear two guys, you've never heard two guys look at each other and go, "Hey man, let's just share our thoughts today." You just don't hear that. Like, for example, two guys, when they're in a public bathroom, you don't talk to the guy when he's in women talk to each other in a bathroom. That's weird. If a guy talks to you in a bathroom, that's just weird. And so when a guy, listen, it's been said, when a guy talks, this is how different we are. It's not to share, it's for the purpose of solving something. The reason that men talk is to solve a problem. That's why we talk. And so you ladies, when you're sharing with your husband, he's looking at you waiting to hear the problem. He's waiting to hear, "And then the car broke down." No, it didn't break down. He's waiting to hear, "And you got mugged." No, I didn't get mugged. He's waiting to hear, "You lost your driver's license." No, I didn't lose my driver's license. And so your husband is looking at you going, "Well, then why are we talking?" "Because I want to share." My wife said to me a while back, "Ladies, you got to understand that there are things that flow from your lips that make sense to you. That when they hit a man's ear, he just goes, I have no..." A while back, my wife says to me, "Honey, let's go for a drive." Have you ever heard the phrase, the deer in the headlights? I'm looking at her going, "Where?" And of course, she says to me, "What does it matter?" Okay, so we go get in the car. So I sit in the car, in the driveway. I put it in reverse to back up out of the driveway. So as I'm backing out of the driveway, I go, "Okay, now listen, honey, I don't mean to to pry or anything like that, but when I get at the end of the driveway, am I going right or am I going left? And she said, why do you have to make it complicated? Can't we just go for a drive? I know, but where? Where do you want to go for a drive? And if we get there, how do we know if we got there or not? I don't know. I don't know. See, it makes sense can we just enjoy the drive? I know, but if I get to a stop sign, how do I know where I'm going? See, it makes sense to you. So when you think of intimacy and you're looking for time spent together, gentlemen, there's a level of engagement that is desired. Not just a warm body, not just somebody to sit there, but for you to engage, for you to pay attention. That's intimacy. And ladies, for you, every now and then, and we laugh about it, but there are some men, on an average, of course, you know that women can be more talkative on an average, but there are some guys that sometimes you want to get something off your chest and you want to communicate. Be careful that you are as well, not so quick to either answer or criticize or judge, because in his case and in your case, when you want to communicate something that's going on in your life and you hear something critical, has a tendency to just kind of close up your heart and go, never mind. So I want to have intimacy in my relationship. Then I'm going to prioritize my relationship. But secondly, I'm not just going to spend time with you. There's going to be a level of engagement, a level of connection. But thirdly, though, did you notice in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, it says, and the two shall become one flesh. The third ingredient is going to be partnership. If I'm going to spend time with you as a spouse, there's going to be a level of passion, involvement, connection, and that's going to bring us to the understanding that we're partners. And the Bible tells us very, very clearly that in the eyes of God, there is no difference positionally in heaven between a man and a woman, but practically on earth, there's different responsibilities. But you and your spouse, you're partners. This means that one is not dominant over the other. One has more responsibility and one has more authority, but dominance, domineering, commanding, intimidating. No, man, we're partners. This is something that my wife and I always tell each other. We wear the same uniform. We're on the same team. We're in our hearts, my wife and I are equal. We really are. Man, she's my greatest advisor. I value her input. I need her input. How many times, and she would answer this question, how many times do I say to her, Teresa, come here. I need your help with this. Can I get your opinion about this? I need to make this decision at work. I need to make this decision in ministry, whatever it is. Can you work with me on this? Any decision that we make, whether it's a financial decision, if it's an emotional decision, if it's a travel decision, we work on a calendar together. We work on our finances together. We work on our travel together. We talk about our children together. We talk about our dreams together. We have an anniversary, a 40th anniversary coming up this year. What are we going to do? We're talking together. We're looking together. We always look at each other and go, we're partners in this. One is not a good cop and one is not a bad cop. We're both good cops and we're both bad cops. We work together in this thing called marriage. Why? Because we want to have intimacy. We pray together. We walk together. We really do. We talk together. We plan together. Those are the kind of things, man, that breed intimacy. Those are the kind of things that provide the culture, the environment where we can open up our hearts and communicate our emotions together. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not afraid to talk to my wife about struggles that I have. How many times? And she would tell you how many. In fact, I think it was just yesterday. I sat with her and I said, I need you to pray with me because I'm battling with this one thing right now. My mind is divided over this and over this and over that. I need for you to help me with this. We're partners in this. And so if you're going to have intimacy, you have to prioritize. See, it starts there. I know how important I am in her life. She knows how important she is in my life. And I know and she knows that when we get together, we spend quality time together. Now, I'm not talking about fireworks every time that we spend time together. You know that. But that provides the opportunity to be partners and to look at our marriage as partners. And the fourth ingredient, personal integrity. What does that mean? In the book of Genesis, before Adam and Eve disobeyed God, before they sinned, before there was transgression, there was complete vulnerability, openness. There was nothing hidden in their life. They were naked, physically, emotionally, spiritually. But then they disobeyed God. Then they started to do their own thing. And the result of that, I'm going to hide. I'm going to keep something to myself. Let me tell you this. If you're afraid to be honest with your spouse, there's something wrong with that. If you are, let me put it to you this way. Write this word down. Write the word proactive down. If I'm going to have personal integrity, I have to have a proactive approach. Personal integrity means I take a proactive approach in how I communicate with my spouse. Let's cut this off at the pass. I see something coming. I see something on the horizon that might affect us, maybe financially. Let's cut it off at the pass. Maybe a family issue. I see something coming up that might impact us in a negative way, and so what I do is, let's talk about it in a proactive way. The second word that I want you to write down is not proactive, but it's reactive. Something happened, and I react to it. You did something, you said something, you acted in a way, and I'm reacting. We didn't talk about it up ahead. We didn't. You spent how much money? You committed us to go where? For how long? See, we didn't proactively approach that. So now I'm reactive. The last word is the word radioactive. You know what that is? There's some subjects that you go, I ain't about to bring that up. If I know that if I bring that up with her, it's going to cause a big fight. And so what you do is you keep it in. And now, because you're afraid, because you know how he's going to react, you know how she's going to react, you keep it in. And now because you've kept it in, it's bothering you. It's eating at you. So every time you see him, but you know, if you say something, you know what they're going to do. They're going to throw a fit, and they're going to fly off the handle, and so you keep it in. And so now the personal integrity in your life is out the window because now there's anger and resentment and intimacy. Are you kidding me? Romance? Are you kidding me? If you're hesitant to talk to your spouse about anything, there's something that ain't working just right. It's a matter of trust, isn't it? Isn't it a matter of trust? If I can't be vulnerable with my wife, if she can't be vulnerable with me to let me know everything that's happening, that's an issue of trust. I've done something. I've acted in such a way that I've scared her so that she can't trust me, then I need to stand in front of a mirror and just go, God, what am I doing wrong? Why is it she's hesitant to talk to me? And so personal integrity, you want to make sure now that there's nothing in your heart that's keeping you from opening up in dialogue. There's nothing inside of you that's keeping the other person from being free to dialogue with you. 4 ingredients that are essential for intimacy. Priority of marriage, the passion level, staying high, investing into your marriage, being partners, one flesh, and personal integrity. Now, let's talk about the enemies of intimacy. You got enemies. You know termites? Have you ever seen termites? They're tiny, tiny little animals that get on the inside, and if you don't catch them, pretty soon a building falls down. So you got some termites that want to eat away at this topic of intimacy. And they're the opposite of the 4 ingredients. It's that simple. Why don't I have intimacy? Why is there no romance in my marriage? Well, number 1, priorities out of whack. I'm not making my spouse the priority of my life. Secondly, if we do spend time together, it's either watching television or it's doing some activity where we don't connect heart to heart. Guys, ladies, I want to remind you that each one of you, each one of us, has 3 tanks that need to be filled. You, ladies, have 3 tanks. You, men, have 3 tanks that need to be filled. And only your spouse has the right given by God to fill those tanks. Number 1, you have an emotional tank. Guys, your wife needs for you to fill her life emotionally, verbally, affirmation, emotionally, connecting, communicating, physically, the physical part of our relationship, but thirdly, spiritually. Each one of us has those 3 tanks. And if we're not filling each other's tanks, we start running on empty. And then you talk about intimacy, romance. Are you kidding me? It's investing. So wrong priorities, we spend time, but we don't connect. We're going in different directions. We're not partners, or we're hiding sin inside of our lives. Enemies of intimacy. So what about romance? Some of our marriages, have you ever heard somebody say, you take me for granted? You just take me for granted. We all say that. Some of our marriages, because we haven't been investing into these 4 ingredients, our marriages have become, let me call them, a bit on the boring side, a bit on the predictable side, routine, dull, dreary, tedious, tiring. Can I say to you, that is not the design. That is not the plan that God had for our marriages. It's not. And so as you evaluate your marriage, as you evaluate the relationship with your spouse, and it's not the kind of marriage, and again, I'm not talking about fireworks and explosions every single time you see each other and you look at it, you come home from work and you still feel nervous because you're going to come home and see your wife the way you used to when you were boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, if you do after 20, 30 years, that's great, but maybe not so much. But what does that mean, though? If your relationship has gone from being vibrant, being alive, being filled with life, use the word exciting, electric, boring. What happened? You ever see a pair of pliers any kind of tool, but say a pair of pliers that's been left out in the rain for a long time. You know what happens to that pair of pliers? What is it? Gets rusty, doesn't it? Now, what is rust? Rust is built up because it's been exposed to the weather and it hasn't been used. It's been ignored. It's been pushed off to the side. Some of our marriages can be compared to that, a bit on the rusty side, a bit on the ignored side, a bit on the non-used side. You ever been to a junkyard? You go to a junkyard, you know what you see? Well, ladies, I don't know if you visit a junkyard that often, but you know what you see? You see rusted out cars. But check this out though. Every one of those rusted out cars started out in a showroom floor. They did. So they start out new, shiny, powerful, and they go from that to a junkyard. What happened? Over time, they were ignored. Over time, they were taken for granted. They weren't maintained. And with enough time, they end up on the junk heap. And you find marriages that are like that. You find marriages where you start out with the excitement, and they're new, and they're powerful, and they're excited about the future. And next thing you know, you find out they just became one of the statistics. What happened? Same thing that happens with a car can happen with the marriage. It's ignored. It got overlooked. There was no maintenance. I told you our last time together, a marriage that works is a marriage that works because the two people are working at it. It's maintenance. It's effort. It's pouring into it. Now, there are products that you can use that will remove rust. There's surface rust, and there's rust that is eaten through all the way to the core. Can I suggest that if you have any kind of rust that's beginning to creep into your marriage, deal with it now. I'm going to tell you how in just a minute. But if you don't deal with rust that wants to creep into your marriage that is just on the surface, it'll start eating at it. And it'll start creeping deeper and deeper into it so that unity that God desires, it just starts crumbling and falling apart. But marriage and rust, they're not designed to go together. So romance is, if I can put it to you this way, the spray that you can spray on the rust. Romance is the rust killer. I just sound like a commercial, didn't I? The Ronco Rust Marriage Seminar. Romance is that element that if you will keep it infused in your relationship, it leads to intimacy, because intimacy is of the heart. Intimacy has to do with emotion. Romance is what opens the door to be able to become intimate. So what is romance? Because there's such a nebulous, once again, if I said, okay, guys, tell me what you men think about romance. Ladies, you tell me. Sometimes it's going to be a very, very different concept. So romance, it's this misunderstood idea that romance, you know what it is? You know what romance is? That it's for women and like strange guys. And they're the only ones that are involved in romance. Can I say to you, every single human being has a need for romance. But the thing is that for guys, for most of us, when we hear the word romance, what are we thinking? That it's a physical act of sex. There's so much more to it than that. Ask your wife if every time that she feels romantic, ask her, do you want to have sex every time you feel romantic? Now, chances are she'll say no. Now, why? Because it's a proven fact, and the next time that we get together, we're going to deal with the issue specifically of sex, but it's a proven fact that for the most part, on an average, a man thinks about sex, wants sex, and desires sex more than a woman does. Now, if you, the man, if you're married to a woman that wants sex more than you do, just on behalf of every guy in here, we hate you. I just say that much. Romance is not, don't confuse romance with just a feeling. Because we say that, I don't feel very romantic. I'm not in the mood. Romance is much more than that. It's an atmosphere that you control. You can control the atmosphere of romance. It's just like loving. Like Jesus said in John chapter 13, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you. Jesus commanded us to love. You know what that means? That means that there is a love that exists in God's eyes that is apart from a feeling. It's obedience. Romance is not just something that, ladies, imagine if the only time that your husband loved you like Christ loved the church was when he felt like it. That he's supposed to be doing that all the time. Guys, imagine if the only time she honored or submitted or respected you was when she felt like it. See, there are things that we do because it's right. And God brings the feeling afterwards. So romance is much more than just a feeling or a mood. Romance is not just a seasonal thing. We think that romance, it's like only for Valentine's Day or if I'm in trouble. That's when I become romantic. No, it's more than that. It's romance. Here's what romance says. Romance says, I was thinking about you. Do you know, guys, if you would call a florist and have flowers delivered to your house, not because you're in trouble, not because it's Valentine's Day, no reason. Now, probably freak out your wife, but because she'll go, "What? Well, he did something. What did he do? I don't know what he did, but he did something." But listen, do you know, and you know this, it's not the flowers. But you know what she's going to say? He was thinking about me. That's romance. I was thinking about you. You were on my mind. If you, guys, you get a text and it's from your wife, and she sends you a message, a text that only your wife could send you, and you go, oh my goodness, she was thinking about me. Do you know what that does to his heart? That's romance. I'm thinking about you. It matters to me. Romance says, I desire you. I want you. Do you know that romance, loving each other, is for a couple of reasons. It's an emotional attraction. It's a physical attraction. But one of, listen carefully now, not the only, but one of the reasons that I love my wife is because of how she makes me feel. What her love does to me. One of the reasons that she loves me is because how I make her feel. If somebody makes you feel bad, chances are you don't feel a lot of love for them. If somebody ignores you, if somebody doesn't have time for you, if somebody mistreats you, you don't feel that. I know you're supposed to, I know that. Why is it that you love Jesus? listen carefully, one of the reasons of why you love Jesus is because how he makes you feel, what he's done in your life. You ought to be doing the same for your spouse. So it's I desire I desire you. You make me feel special. Now, one of the worst things that can happen is reject me. I reach out. I try to show intimacy. I try to show romance, and you close the door on me. Oh, that's painful. That rejection is something that all of us run from. Now, we're almost done. Let me give you two very, very special ingredients that need to be a part of this romance if it's going to work for us. We're almost done. First of all, romance, if it's going to be real, if it's going to be genuine, it needs to be something that is proactive and you take the initiative. You don't seek to be romantic because your spouse is pressuring you. Saying something like, you know, my friend's husband, he sends her flowers. Why don't you ever do anything for me? How come you never do that for me? No, it needs to be something that's, you thought of it. It's spontaneous. You take the initiative. You do something to get the thing going. It happens to my wife and I every single time. It never fails. Here's our scene at my house, our car, whatever. So you wanna go somewhere? Want to go eat? Want to go have dinner? Yeah. I'll say, yeah, let's go. And my wife, bless her heart, will always say to me, where do you want to go? Now, we've been playing this game for 39 years. So I will say, let's go to La Bamba. I don't want to go there. I mean, every time. It's not like, well, sometimes this happens. Every time. See, my wife, bless her heart, man, she wants me to, offer up the offering so that she can torch it. It's like, take the initiative, do it. I want you to take the lead, and there's something special to your wife if you come up with an idea. If you say, I got an idea. I'm going to surprise my wife. You don't even tell her. You plan a whole evening. You know what it does to your wife? If you take the initiative and plan a whole evening. You got little ones? No problem, babe. I got a babysitter. And I know your favorite restaurant. I got reservations at your favorite restaurant. I don't really care for it, but it's your favorite restaurant. And because I love you so much, I'm going to deny myself, and I'm going to your favorite restaurant. And then after that, and do you know what it does? You were thinking about her. You took the time to plan what she wanted to do, what would be special to her. Same goes for the wife. So to be proactive. Secondly, and lastly, if romance is going to be from the heart, let me put it to you this way, and I'll explain. You need to learn how to speak your spouse's language. Because we speak different languages. Romance to me might be different than romance to my wife. Romance to you, the man, in your case, you're playing one movie. Has this ever happened to you? Guys, you're on the way home, you're driving. And as you're driving home on I-95, you're playing this movie in your mind. When I get home tonight, oh man, and you got we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and then after this and this. Now your wife, she's on her way home after 10 hours of work, and she's got a movie playing in her mind. Chances are, it's a whole different movie. It's a completely different movie. And so romance, it means one thing to you, it means another thing to her. To a man, Romance is naked. Naked has something to do with it. And sex. And having fun. And enjoyment. Romance is, honey, let's watch the football game in our underwear. Want to? And you as a wife, you go, that is the stupidest thing. And your husband, he's going like, yeah, man, football in our underwear. That's romantic. That is like it. Now, that's man talk. That's man romance. Wife romance, let's sit and talk. Do you remember when you first met that you could like sit at a table at a restaurant and just stare at each other and not even say anything? Just stare and smile. And now your wife looks at you, she's staring at you, and now after years of being married, you look at her and go, what you looking at? What do you want? But for her, woman romance is long approach and building up and take your time and romance me and share your day with me. Share what happened today and talk and let's go for a walk. And if there is going to be sex, it's at the end of a long event. Long build-up. And in your mind, you're going, But see, here's the key, though. Here's the key. A strong marriage, listen carefully now, a strong marriage is going to be emotionally, now here's the key, a strong marriage will be emotionally bilingual. What do I mean by that? Remember what I said, to a man romance has something to do with naked. To a woman romance, it has something to do with talking. So if we're going to have a strong marriage that includes romance and intimacy, I have to learn how to talk woman. And my wife should learn how to talk man. We ought to be able to talk each other's language. Just like a missionary that goes from here, born here in the United States, speaks only English, but goes to a Latin American country, and they're there for X amount of years, they learn the language there. They learn how to communicate in their language, using their phrases, using their expressions. You as a husband, you want to communicate romance, you ought to learn how to use her phrases, her language. You as a woman, you want to have a romantic afternoon or a romantic event with your husband, you ought to learn how to speak his language. Because he is going to say things like, we're going to, because again, there's a battle of, well, then who's going to win then? Do I have to learn how to just talk the way she wants me to talk? No, I'm not going to do that. She wants to just, what does she want to do? Have a candlelight dinner every night and sit and talk about our feelings and sit and talk about what happened all day? Oh, no, here's what I want to do. I want to watch football and I got special plans for you for halftime, baby. And I mean, that's like, That's not her. That's not. She's not going to respond to that kind of thing. She's gonna. Let me tell you what. Let me tell you. You as a man. For you to look at your wife and to say, "Hey, babe, you've been working hard all day. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the kids to bed. I'm going to put the kids to bed." And you go take a hot bath. You go take a hot bath. I prepared a meal. They're going to deliver it in about 10 minutes. And here's what we're going to do. when you come out of the bath, the kids will be in bed, and we'll sit at the dinner table, and I want to have the opportunity to share with you the deepest feelings that I've been experiencing in my heart. Your wife's ears just, really? Yeah, and I'm thinking, babe, I'm thinking that after I'm done sharing the deepest feelings from my heart, I would like for you to share with me everything that's been going on in your life. And do me a favor now, do me a favor, don't leave anything out. Give me every detail, blow by blow. I don't want you to leave anything out. And then after we're done this meal and we've shared our deepest feelings with one another, I've recorded 5 sessions of Dr. Phil. We're going to go and sit and we're going to watch Dr. Phil because he talks about marriage, and I want to learn how to be a better husband to you. And so we're going to sit and watch Dr. Phil and just hug and cuddle. We'll just cuddle each other. And then, after that, you know what my plans are? We'll go in the bedroom. And here's the best part, babe. We'll go in the bedroom, we'll get in bed, and just go to sleep. Because I don't want anything. Ladies, how would that, I mean, guys, she's in heaven. She thinks she died and went home to be with Jesus. See, that's woman romance right there. You just touched her heart. Now, let me tell you, women, the last thing I'm going to tell you, you need to learn how to talk man. You need to learn how to talk man. You need to look at your husband and you need to say to him, have I got a night planned for you, baby? They're going to deliver the uniforms here in about a minute. Have I got plans for you? Pinch him on the backside and say, you get up to that bedroom right now. You know what? You just send him to heaven, man. He thinks he died and went home to be with Jesus. Because here's what you did. You went into his world. And he went into your world. And life is not about you, but it's about making his life better. And life is not about you, but it's about making her life better. That's romance. It's connecting heart to heart. It's 2 people becoming one flesh. I leave you with this verse, Philippians chapter 2. Here's what the Apostle Paul said in verses 3, 4, and 5. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility, listen, consider the needs of the other person as greater than your own needs.